In this session, I'm going to tell you how to make a dialogue system.
Stop, stranger. You think you can pass through our territory This city belongs to our lord now. Your presence is unwelcome. Hand over your coin or face the edge of my blade.
And you can also skip that from the beginning. And then you go and do the thing. As we're going to add audio to our dialogue system, then you can go to sites like albumlabs.io and write any text, and it would voice over for you with emotion.
Hand over your coin or face the edge of my blade.
I've brought my voices here, and now let's go and make a dialogue system. But also, we need to design that. So let's go to Photoshop. Let's add a background, something like that. And as the UI theme is brown, I'll make it a little something like that. And then we need a picture holder. So the picture of the enemy or the player is shown, for example, here. And let's make that this color. And then I want that the name of the enemy or any creature that is talking be shown here. So let's add another box here. And I think that's good. You can make it larger if you want. So the name, and also a container that shows the text, which I think white is good. So put it here. And now we will have two buttons, one for next and one for skip. When the player press skip, the whole conversation will be gone. But for the next, it just bring the next line of dialogue. And so let's make that. So the next will be. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. I want to have it. So here is the next button, and also a skip button. For example, the player uh, has played that same level several times, and in the middle of that, the player has died, and now he wants to start over. So it's very annoying that the player sees the conversation again and again. So you have to give the option that the player skip through that. But for the first time, yes, it's good. That's the say okay next. So yeah, I think that the dialogue system would appear like that, and export that individually. Okay, there I made a folder UI dialog, and then I put them there. Please. And now let's go to Canvas, and the Canvas, and there should be a panel that when it is opened, for example here, let's make the UI panel dialog, and I'm showing the size to this. And now let's add them as UI image PG, which is this. And now let's add the UI image, That is the avatar of the um, enemy or player. And also in here, I'll have a text to show the name, txt name, and don't forget to set their position. And the text should be here. Right now I say enemy. Let's see. And correct the size and color. And you can change the font if you want. Best fit. And before that, we need to UI avatar holder. There. That should goes there. And I think I gave this color. The font is really big. Okay. And then we want to add that text holder. I think that we want to add it as a text, but let's add in sequence UI image, and I say text holder, and I give it this picture. Okay, come in here. And now let's add the text itself. UI text txt dialog. It's where the dialog would appear. For example, I say hey there, and just adjust the size. Mm, what? Oh, this here, the height is like this. The font is very small, so, and I make it completely black or any color that you like. And there is a skip button, UI button, btn skip. Um, Up here. So here we are. And the text would be skip. Make it white. And And also the next btn next button. Um, Next, um, let's remove that. It was a name holder. This is the avatar holder. And let's make a UI, image, and avatar. Okay. We don't want that anything will be here in the text because we want to. For this, I can directly say that. Okay, that's a daemon, but this text should dynamically be filled. So I think it was the text holder and the dialog. Okay. Now let's go and write the code for that. Script. It's gonna be UI and C sharp dialog. Okay, let's say serialized field private text. We want to get that this text here, and we should use the UI and say txt dialog. And here we want to have the arrays because I don't want that directly we insert the text. We want that we can insert the text from the inspector. So we can have arrays of strings. For example, we say dialog lines. And also we have the audio private audio clips clip. Yes, we might have some of them. For example, mine, I think it was 5 lines. And okay, yes, you can have this name. And also we need to get the audio source private audio source audio. I just want this. Let's get component audio source. And we want the index of the strings and the dialog line. So say index. So now let's go and assign these things in the inspector. And for example, um, I give the code to the panel dialog. There is a text which is text dialog, the text that is here. Okay. And what we need here, dialog lines. I have to see what I have gave. Now the audio. Okay, here. Let's lock that. Select all of them by pressing shift and bring them here. And whatever that it was
Stop, stranger.
okay. For example, it says stop stranger. Everything that is written here should be also be played as audio. Because
You think you can pass through our territory unchallenged?
oh, so let me feel that, and I will show you later. So these are the lines of the sentences that also they have the same audio. So yes, we have 5 lines, and the index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because in the index is a start from 0. And also, so I think right now gave it, but this you can do this manually. You can also do this by code, but you can, for example, for another enemy, you can duplicate that and uh, change this and this and this. So now let's go to code. Here, at first, I want that the dialog text has nothing. Text is, make sure that it is empty. And another way is that you say a string that's empty. And here, I'll have a function, private void, and say start uh, dialog, kind of to initiate that. Control V. Okay, at first, what is that? At first, the index, of course, is 0. And then we want that the characters in the sentence would be appear one by one. For example, hi, it would be H, and with the little bit of waiting, the I appear. H-I, it would be hi. So because it has some kind of delay, we're going to use the I enumerator. So it's a private I enumerator. For example, show mm, dialog text. Okay, you want to say, okay, everything that is in that sentence, then show them one by one. So as it is an array, so we say for each, I think it's a character char, um, no, not line, letter in dialog lines, index to char array, so cast it to that. And it starts from here. Okay, for every character that it is in one line, just show them in the text, which is this. That's text plus equal, yes, the letter. And as you want that, yes, the letter is shown, but after a very short delay, the next letter would be displayed. So we want to say yield return new, wait for seconds, a very, very short time. Oh, what is that? This F. You can play with this number to see what fits the best. And then here we would have our first line displayed automatically. And also you want to do that for the audio. So we go here and say, what's audio, that's clip is equal to, yes, audio clips that we had in the same index, and say audio that's play. Yeah. I'm sorry, what is that? It's a quarantine. Start quarantine. Should I like text? We have this. And then For the bottom, for the next, we had that here. And it's like, okay, for example, the player press on that, then it should bring the next line and also the next audio. So here we say private, well, as we're going to give it to the bottom, to the unclick bottom. So say public void continue dialog. So now we have to check that if the first index is less than dialog line, that's length, and minus one, because the length is 5, but the index is 4 in our case, because in the index starts from 0. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which equals to 5 length. So we have to say minus 1 so that it becomes 4. So if that condition is true, and it means that we have more mm, lines, then we say index plus plus, and yes, show the next index and also the next audio. Okay, else it means that we don't have any other lines and dialog is finished. So we will write a function and say private void finish dialog, and we call it here and we say destroy the game object because we don't need that dialog anymore. Here I forgot that if there is any previous um, lines there, it should be deleted. So write it here. And for the finish the dialog, you can just assign it to the skip button, and we don't need that. Let's test this, and if we need more things, then we will return. Also, I want that my player doesn't move, but I will do that later. But let's go and give these things to this. It was the button next. What is that? Unlock that. So unclick function, give the game object that has the code, and go to dialog and continue dialog. And for this skip, and it is, I think this is private. You have to make it public so it shows on the unclick. So skip button, dialog, and finish dialog. So let's go and try that. I will decrease the line of sight of that so it wouldn't attack me. The line of sight or sight distance, it would be, for example, 5. And let's play the game. Stop a stranger. You think um the sounds are not played because it doesn't have any audio source. Audio source. Okay, and let's play again. If you think that the text show very slow, you can go to your quarantine and decrease the number.
Stop, stranger. You think you can pass through our territory unchallenged?
Oh. It plays after that, so remove them and put them here and decrease that. Mm, I think that's good.
You think you can pass through our territory unchallenged? This city belongs to our lord now. Your presence is unwelcome. Hand over your coin or face the edge of my blade.
Okay. So let's see if we can skip that. Or what
Stop,
happened?
stranger. You think you... This city belongs to our lord now.
What? What is this?
Hand over your coin or face the edge of my blade.
What was that? Why they were written in a very stupid way?
Stop, stranger.
Okay, I can escape. And I think it was because of the quarantine. Mm, So it's better that we make another function that stops all the quarantine. So not directly give that to the bottom. So for example, say bottom public void next um, dialog or next line. I don't know, something like that. And if the player press on the next button, so I make it again private. So here we check that if the whole text have been shown here, then okay, you just normally you can go to the uh, next, for example, next line. But if they, for example, something that I did in the middle of the conversation, when I press next, weird thing happens because the quarantine was still active. So if in the middle of the showing the text, for example, I don't want that he complete his sentence. So I say next, then it has to stop the quarantine. So I'll check that by saying if, for example, the dialog text, the text equal to whatever that it is, it is in the dialog line index. If it completely matches to that, it means that the quarantine has already finished and the whole sentence have been written. Else, just continue the dialogue. No problem. Else, if it's in the middle of that and the line is not yet finished, then we have to stop that quarantine. We say stop all quarantines and also immediately it becomes true to that. In a very fast way. And also they um, stop the audio source. Audio that's stop. This one is better for giving to the button. And you can say, okay, give it to the button. Button, yes. And also give that to the skip button. It's always that you do this documentation in your code, so later you know which one does which. So don't forget to go here and what's the dialog and next dialog. And now let's test the game.
Stop, stranger.
So you see that I pressed that quickly, but it shows good and it's not weird like before.
Your presence is unwelcome. Hand over your coin or face the edge of my blade.
So either you say next, it would be gone, or they skip. Because if you say next, and if there is nothing there, it somehow calls that, okay? Because we don't have any more lines. And I think that's it. But we don't want that it, you see that it's open. For example, we want that the player, for example, collide with something or reach to some distance, and then this is displayed. Also, if you see, um, the player
Stop, stranger.
can move. If you want that it moves, then fine. But I want that he kind of stays there. So one of other ways is that I activate and deactivate. Uh, we gave it here player input. That I gave it to this. Then let's go and do that. I say private. First, I need to get that input. So I say serialized field private player input, which is this. And I write two functions and I say private void activate player input player input that's enable is true, and we have other thing as deactivate, which is false. And we want to deactivate it when the conversation begins. So the player can't move or fire attack or use all these actions that are here. But as remember, for example, this button was not defined in here. So it can also click on that, but not on the things that we have added here. So, okay, we say that, I think yes, we say activate, deactivate. And before this is finished, I activate that again. Now let's go and test it. Player input. And drag and drop. No. Okay, the player. That's the same thing. And let's go and play.
Stop, stranger.
You see, I cannot move at all. I cannot shoot, but I can open that. We can make it part of the input system so it wouldn't appear there or this. But the other things, no, I cannot move. And after it is done, then I can move again. Now we have another problem. This thing just appears when we play the game. So we want that, for example, when I reach a collider in the game and I'm very close to him, then this thing appear, this dialog. Otherwise, at first it should be deactivated. So now I can make a game object. Um, Dialog activate and give it a collider. It's a bus collider 2D and make it a trigger and make it big enough that the player has to pass through that and he cannot escape that. Yes. So he has to somehow pass through this passage. So even if it jumps, it has to somehow collide with that. And then the conversation begins. And let's give it a code for script. Yes. Say dialog activation. I say, okay, which dialog you want to be activated? Okay, this is not working. Yes. I say private game object. Panel. So I say on trigger enter 2D. This is set active is true because normally it is false, so it would be true. But there is another problem. If I have this collider there, whenever the player passes through that, the dialogue is instantiated. Yes, it is destroyed once, but uh, if you just deactivate that, then whenever that you go into that collider, for example, go here and then go there, each time it's counted as trigger and it shows it again and again. So you can use a boolean private bool, um, for example, has entered. It is false, and I say if um, it is false, it means that it didn't enter to that. Then you can play that, and also it becomes true. It means that if a player again goes to that collider, this is not activated. So you can do that to make sure that things are not weird. So go to your, where is the collider? Okay, dialog activation, and you can make it as a prefab, and you can use in different parts of your game, and you just change this. Right now, the dialog is this. So nothing happens,
Stop, stranger.
and then he appears.
This city belongs to our lord. Your presence is unwelcome. Hand over your coin or face the edge.
Okay. Now it comes and I kill him. So I think that's, and also you can do different things. For example, if this is, you can make a boolean there to say here the dialogue is finished. You can say that okay, it is true. That, and then say okay, if that boolean is true, instantiate new enemies, for example, or deactivate something in the scene. The creativity depends on you. You know the codes, so to further develop that, it's up to you.